One of, if not the best way to make better comics is to make comics. And one of, if not the best way to make better comics quickly is to make mini comics. Stick around till the end, because if you have no idea what mini comics to make, I've got some ideas that have helped me and they could help you. So why should you start a mini comic? Well, they're quick, they're non-committal, they allow you to experiment with style and story, you could potentially monetize them, and most importantly, they're fun. What's not to like? So let's get into this a bit more. When I say mini comic, I'm thinking of a webcomic that you would post on your site or your blog or your social media platform or a comic hosting website. But they don't have to be digital at all. You can do this 100% traditionally with a single piece of paper. I'll get into that a bit more later, but first I want to explain how and why they're so quick. A lot of times when it comes to comics, the artists get strung up on the quality of the artwork. You see a lot of comics online and you see incredible artists left and right and you want to emulate their work. But at this stage, the quality of your art shouldn't really be something that concerns you too much. At least not in the sense that every fundamental needs to be 100% perfect. Instead, because this is a mini comic, we can focus on other things. How are we going to portray our ideas or show the expressions of our characters, or the way we set out a particular panel for maximum impact? How are we going to anticipate the word balloons before we put in the final artwork? These are all fundamentals for making better comics, and making pretty pictures doesn't necessarily factor in. You'll learn to make pretty pictures over time. This is about speed and efficiency. So that's why they're quick, but how are they non-committal? Well, if you're doing a sitcom style mini comic where one episode doesn't necessarily relate to the other, then it's not the end of the world if you don't post for a week. I'll slightly contradict this later, but for the most part you can see doing these mini comics as something to do in between your larger projects, or if you're bored of doing what you're doing all the time and you want to do something different. Speaking of feeling bored and wanting to do something different, this is where the experimentation comes in. If you normally tend to draw in one particular style, maybe you could broaden your horizons and look at other artists in other fields to develop a different style. Maybe you like the way a sculpture looks, or a children's book illustration, or some graffiti art, or abstract art, or pretty much anything. There are loads out there, and you can use the mini comic as a way to experiment with new styles and figure out what you like and what you don't like. Because if it doesn't work, it's fine, it's just one page and a few panels. You wouldn't be spending months or years on a larger comic book project and end up hating the entire experience if the style you're using doesn't gel with what you enjoy. And if it does work out, then you could be in the process of developing a unique style to you, and you can use the mini comic to develop it further. Now this applies to the storytelling as well, not just the art. You don't have to just experiment with the art style, you can experiment with the format in general. So for example, you can use different types of panels, or different types of panel placements, or different types of word balloons, pretty much anything that your imagination can think of. Use the mini comic to experiment. Now this is where the contradiction comes in. Generally speaking, you want to be fairly consistent with your mini comic uploads if you want to build an audience. Now nothing in life is binary, so if you don't upload consistently, it doesn't mean that you won't build an audience, but you're more likely to build one if you do upload consistently. Does that make sense? Audiences who latch onto your comic are going to want some fairly consistent uploads, because if there are large gaps between uploads, they may lose interest, or they might just forget about it altogether. Now, one of the main reasons you may want to build an audience is so that you can monetize your comic further along down the line. Now, I'm not talking about getting your audience to pay to read the comic, although you can totally do that. I'm talking about things like ad space. So if you host your mini comic on a comic hosting website and you get a certain number of subscribers or views or both, then you'll be given the chance to profit from the ads that are shown alongside your comic. It's not much, and it will take a long time to get there, but it's a start. Likewise, if you host your mini comic on your own website and you generate a lot of traffic there, then you will start to earn money through ad space there as well. Another option is that if you cultivate a fan base, then you can start something like a Patreon page and offer some extra things like extra episodes or early access, stuff like that. Now, to be honest, I wouldn't worry about the monetizing thing so early on. I do advocate that you should make a Patreon page early so that you can make all of your mistakes before anyone puts any money towards it. But if you have this mindset of earning money from your comics early on, then that could lead to some disappointment. This is going to take a while, and there's a good chance it won't happen at all, so just mentally prepare yourself for that. Hopefully it does, but it just might not. And on that note, I hope I've helped make the case as to why you should be making mini comics. If I have, then that's all well and good, but it doesn't really mean much if you don't know what they look like or how to make them. Now, the first thing to do is to go online and look at webcomics that are already out there and think about which ones you want to do. Whether you want that single page sitcom style comic or a longer multiple page story arc, or maybe something in between. Personally, I recommend a single page sitcom style, but you do you. Now just simply divide the page into 4 or 6 panels and make the comic however you want to make it. It might be bad, it might be great, it doesn't really matter as long as you're actively making them. So you've made your comic, but there's one more step to do if you plan on posting it onto a comic hosting website. To be honest, I would do this anyway because a lot of people use the internet on their phone, and to read comics on the phone it's usually easier to do it in a vertical scroll. That just simply means that instead of having your panels side to side, you would have them up and down on top of each other. This is what I do for Life is Comics, so I've got a little bit of both. But if you're only really interested in throwing this up on social media, then you don't necessarily have to do this step. Now, as far as what the best social media platform to use, a lot of people say Instagram is a really good social media platform for webcomics because the way that you can lay them out within the app. Usually if you see a webcomic on Instagram, then these posts will be like multiple image posts where each image is a single panel and then the last image is all the panels together. For some reason my phone has made it difficult to do this, so I've just been posting single images of the full panels. And if you're traditional, just scan it in or take a really good photo of it and then repeat the same steps. It's all basically the same thing. Before I move on to some ideas, I just want to stress that the whole point of this mini comics thing is to ultimately have fun. You're going to make mistakes, and that's kind of the point, is that you make mistakes, you find out early, and then you make better comics from that. And if you're like me and get overly excited about new projects, then try and keep that excitement grounded. You need to understand that your comic may generate 0 views, or if it does generate views, they may only be a couple, like less than 10. And that might stay that way forever. And that's okay. The point of this is like it's a public exercise where you're actively getting better at making comics. If you generate lots of views from it, then great. If you don't, it's not a failure. And if you're watching this and you decide to make a webcomic off the back of it, then post a link to that webcomic in the comments below because I want to read it. So if you're worried that you'll get 0 readers, you'll get at least 1, which is me. So, some ideas. The first one's pretty easy. Make an autobiographical comic. Write about you and your life. You may think your life is boring, but sometimes beauty is in the boring. You don't have to have gone on this amazing adventure or traveled the world to write interesting things and create interesting and funny comics. I chose to create Life is Comics as like a semi-autobiographical thing about being a comic creator. And to be honest, a lot of it is quite therapeutic, especially if I'm feeling annoyed about something, then I can sort of channel my anger through the comic. Now, if you really don't want to write about your own life, then the next idea is similar but different. Just write about what interests you. It doesn't have to be anything to do with you, but what interests you. A lot of webcomics do this already, where they will reference famous IPs, or they will base an entire universe off an IP. Now there's the big question about copyright infringement, but as long as you're not actively stealing from anyone else, then you should be fine. Hopefully. I'm not a copyright lawyer. So if you're into wrestling, make a comic about wrestling. If you like to play guitar, then make a comic about a metal band or something. You get it, you get the idea. Now the final idea is based on the idea that you've already got a long form story that you haven't got round to telling yet. Or maybe you've just started, but you've got grand plans for it in the future. What the mini comic will do is that you take the core ideas from that larger graphic novel that you're making, and you make mini versions of it. This is a really great way to hammer out some ideas or to further develop a character or introduce a new character into your scenario, especially if you get audience feedback. If an audience reacts positively to a particular character, then you may want to consider featuring them more in the larger graphic novel project that you're doing. It's a bit like when filmmakers show their movies to test audiences before the full release. It's that kind of logic. And that is why I think making mini comics is a good idea. It's more accessible, non-committal, and fun. There is potential money to make with it, but again, be patient with yourself. If you do a mini comic for 6 months and nothing comes of it, then just do another one, and then another one, and so on. Your 100th comic will be better than your first one. Here's one of the first Life is comics that I made before it even had a name, and this is one of the latest ones that I've made. It's not outstanding, but there is a clear difference between the two. Don't forget to subscribe if you've made it this far, and link your webcomics in the comments below because I really want to read them and steal all your ideas. I've been Brinkley, have fun drawing, and I'll see you next week. Ugh, got such a bad cold. I'm dying.